A little over a year ago, I decided that I was finally ready to declutter some stuff that I had been holding on to for years. I went in thinking that it was just about getting rid of a few things. I had a whole plan. In a month, bada bing, bada bang, it would be done. But I quickly realized that the things that I had been keeping was a reflection of more than just clothes and mail and other random foolishness. Decluttering my physical space helped me to identify and clear every part of my life. And today I'm going to share with you how clutter shows up in different parts of our lives and some simple ways to start dealing with it so that you too can master decluttering your whole life. Well, welcome back, my friends, or welcome to my channel. My name is Christy, and I make content centered around realizing that no matter where we are in life, no matter our age, we are just on time to live the life of our dreams. Before I move on in this video, I have to let you know that I do not have this down perfectly. There are still things that need to be decluttered and that need to be organized. And I would not call myself the poster child for minimalism. However, where I am now about what I have and what I keep and my mindset about what matters and why, night and day difference. And it started with me dealing with the physical clutter. When I started this process back in October of last year, 2023, my husband and I, we were about to move into a new space, and we had a very clear idea of how we wanted that space to look and to feel. There was a lot of stuff that we did not want to take with us, partially because we knew we wouldn't have space for it, but also because it just did not fit who we were. It didn't fit our lifestyles anymore. Some of that stuff was his, but for the most part, your girl was the guilty party. Most of that stuff was mine. To be very honest, I pushed it off because there were things that I just didn't want to deal with. I looked at it and I got overwhelmed, or I would get way too attached. And so I would just bring it with me from place to place, but so that the place would look clean, so that my home wouldn't look cluttery or messy or anything, I would put it away in pretty bins, and there it would stay until some point that never came for me to deal with. One day it just kind of snapped in my brain, and I was like, okay, I'm ready. I started with a 30-day throwaway that I posted about last year. I got myself pumped and ready for it and just kind of made a game out of it because there was part of me that was low-key not fully looking forward to it, but I wanted to make it happen. And as I let go of things, I definitely felt lighter, but it was a whole therapy session because I was forced to reflect inward. I was pulling out things and I was looking at stuff, and I would ask myself two simple questions. One, do I want this? And two, why do I have it? Those questions led to a whole lot of other questions. And through that process, I was suddenly able to see, one, why it was so hard for me to sometimes let go of things, but then also how holding on to one thing was connected to another area of my life that maybe I hadn't dealt with yet. Some of the things were easy, like mail and paperwork that I wasn't quite sure what to do with, so I just put it in a box, put it on a shelf. But there were quite a few other things that were also tied to guilt, to memories, to what if scenarios, to previous versions of myself or ideal versions of myself that no longer fit who I currently was. As I was sorting through what to keep and what to let go, there was no way that I could separate it from the fact that a lot of it ended up getting attached to mental clutter and spiritual clutter and emotional clutter. In my head, it became this kind of chicken and the egg scenario of, is the inner stuff causing the physical clutter, or is the physical stuff causing the inner clutter? Either way, it doesn't really matter, but what does matter is being able to recognize it and know how to deal with it. So what are these other types of clutter? Emotional clutter was a big one for me, and it was one that you guys also connected with a lot in a video where I unpacked the layers of decluttering. I have 4 of the layers, and the first one I am calling out of sight, out of mind. These are things that we don't care about and we don't always know what it is. The next layer I like to call happy memories. These things remind us of joyful times, or they make us go, ah, but we are not super attached or connected to them. The third layer is my ideal self. This layer is where it starts to get hard for us to let things go, because these are things that are attached to a previous version of ourself or self where we felt like we were most confident. And then the last layer, which is the hardest level, I am calling it, it's so hard to say goodbye. This is the heart layer and the hardest layer of letting things go. Emotional clutter is the unresolved feelings, the emotional baggage, the negative thought patterns that weigh heavily on our mental and emotional well-being. It can show up in your relationships and how you talk to yourself, your energy levels, and yes, your space. For me, my parents passed when I was in my 20s, and I felt the responsibility of just carrying that family mantle and making sure that my parents weren't forgotten. But in my head and my heart, something about that just got twisted. There was a deeply ingrained feeling, one that probably I am still dealing with and healing from, that if I let go of their stuff, that I was letting go of them. And every time I tried to deal with getting rid of something that was connected to them, I felt sad and guilty. As I got older, there were pieces of them or day-to-day interactions that I couldn't remember as clearly, and holding onto their stuff became a way for me to hold on to them. Recognizing and identifying the emotional clutter is the only way that we can start dealing with it and healing from it. Resentment, guilt, regret, unprocessed grief, those are all forms of emotional clutter. It often builds up when we hold on to past experiences or toxic relationships, unhelpful emotional habits, or ways of being that just no longer serve us. Emotional clutter blocks our ability to feel present, to feel joyful, and to feel focused, very similar to the way physical clutter blocks out our spaces in our home. You have to ask yourself, what emotional clutter are you holding onto, and how is it showing up in the various spaces of your life? Dealing with it might start with forgiving yourself and others for things that have happened. It may look like setting boundaries and training yourself to say no without feeling guilty. Also journaling and talking with a trusted someone to start processing those emotions and be on the journey toward letting them go. Have you ever had a constant loop of to-dos and should-dos and worries and anxieties filling up your brain? That is what mental clutter is, and it was kind of where I was most days. Mental clutter is the overwhelming and distracting thoughts that make it really difficult for us to focus, to think clearly, and even to make decisions. It can stem from a few things, be it overcommitment or fear of failure, or in my case, just feeling overwhelmed by my to-do list. It oftentimes leads to procrastination, which is of course a vicious cycle because that then leads to more mental clutter. The fix for mental clutter: deal with it. Whether it is anxiety about something or feeling overwhelmed, deal with it. If overcommitment is your problem, you have to start saying no to things that either you can't do or don't want to do, or things that don't align with your goals. Stop agreeing to events and projects and things just because you feel obligated. If you have a fear of failure, you got to face that head on and just do it. For me, the idea of regret has always been worse than just going after a thing. So if you don't want to live with regret, you have got to face that fear head on, put yourself out there and see what happens. If it's feeling overwhelmed, identify all of the things that are making you feel that way. Something that I started doing every single day, even before decluttering, was brain dumping all of my thoughts, whether it be on my iPhone and my notes app or on a sheet of notebook paper, to get it out of my head and onto something where I could actually see what my source of anxiety and stress was. It really helped me to prioritize and clear space in my head. Funny enough, it was also how I approached decluttering my physical stuff. I would take everything just out of the closet or out of bins. I would dump it all over the floor so I could just see exactly what it was and ask myself those questions of, do I want this and why am I keeping it? There is something about seeing all of your foolishness all over the place that helps you to figure out how to get it together real quick. Spiritual clutter is anything that keeps you from feeling connected to God, your purpose, and or your values. It can look like not being really clear on what your values are, or feeling shame, comparison, or other toxic influences, or moving in fear, or possibly even neglecting you and your purpose. For me, spiritual clutter looked like overfilling my day to the point where I felt like I didn't have enough time for myself. There were also times when I wasn't prioritizing spending quality time with God. When I saw it, it was so important for me to prioritize that and make it happen in my day-to-day life, because there are so many things that can pull us away from what truly matters. Things that will keep us focused on who we're not and what we lack, and things that add no actual value to our lives, but just add up a lot of, again, clutter. To combat spiritual clutter, I have intentional time to connect with God, to pray, to read my Bible every single day. Whether it's 5 minutes or 2 hours, I make sure that I'm having that quality time with Him. I also prioritize my goals and making time for myself. Where I can, I try to be really tight with my time on things that are not as directly connected to the things, people, and commitments that are not connected to my values or my purpose. I also make sure to find ways to stay grounded and to stay grateful. I think so many people are in the same boat that I was in and never end up dealing with the clutter because they know it's going to be a process. But if you ever want to move forward with your life, if you ever want to heal, if you ever want to grow, you have to force yourself to see it, to deal with it, and to let stuff go. Recognizing that helped me to not only challenge and heal some of the other areas that were cluttered, but it also helped me to realize that I had tools that I had built up from years of working on me that helped me to be able to address the physical clutter. Dealing with the physical clutter really helped me to see all the ways that clutter is connected. I realized that decluttering is about creating room for peace, for joy, and for the things that you actually want in your life. If you're in a place where you are feeling stuck or overwhelmed, I want to challenge you to start small. Pick one area to declutter, whether it is a drawer, a toxic friendship, or even just 5 minutes of your time. Take that first step and see how it feels. And to hold each other accountable, I want you to let me know in the comments, what is one area of your life that feels the most cluttered right now? And what's one thing you're gonna do about it? If this video resonated with you, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone else who probably needs some help starting their decluttering journey. Also, if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? I'm gonna need you to jump on that. Alrighty, my friends, I love you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next. Bye for now.